Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well, and thank you for being here today. In this video, we're going to do something completely different. I've never done one of these before. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you my single player server settings. I was asked about this a while back. I finally got around to it now. I'm sorry for the delay, but here we are. We're going to go ahead and do this. Well, I want to kind of clear up some things first before we go on. What I'm going to be doing is going through each tab up top, except for the custom zones tab. I'm not going to bother with that one, but the other ones, the other six, we will go through. All the subcategories we will go through. What I'm not going to do is go through every single setting and explain everything, because most of the stuff is straightforward. The only part of this that I feel is not straightforward is the NPC section, which is under the world tab. What we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down on most of these tabs. You can go ahead and take a look at how I have it set up. Feel free to copy it. Feel free to, when you do copy it, tweak it however you like it to your playing style. What I have set up is what I prefer. I've been playing this game for a while, and when they came out with these new settings for the NPCs, I had to tweak a lot of stuff, a lot of testing, I had to get a lot of help from other people, and I have it where I think I like it. So if you're new to the game and you don't know how to set up your single player, again, use this as a guide, use it as a template, copy it, whatever you want to do to help yourself get through this a lot faster. This is what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for you guys. So feel free to use it however you like. The other thing is, I'm going to talk about my season 4 changes that I'm going to be making as we go through this. So let's start off here with the general tab. Again, none of this is changed at the top here. Most of this is all default. The one thing I did change a while back is the fame gain multiplier. So I think the default setting is 1. So if you want to gain more fame with the things that you're doing while you're playing the game, increase this. I increased it to 3. I feel that's pretty good. Pay attention to that, guys, when we're going through the season 4 single player series here, and see what you think. I don't know if you ever paid attention to that before when I would do things and I would gain fame. So if you want to gain that faster, increase that multiplier. The other thing I changed was the enable spawn on ground. I had it on. As you see in the background, my character is already spawned in and he's on the ground. What I did was I turned it off now. So when I die again, I'm sure it's going to happen. We will then spawn in like normal as dropping from the sky, and we'll use our parachute and do all that fun stuff. So that's it for this screen. There's no subcategories on the general tab. On the world tab, this is where you start having your subcategories. The first one is not NPCs. The first one is the bunkers. This is the first one you're going to see. I didn't touch any of this. Okay. All this is default. If you want to do abandoned bunkers and you test it out on default and you want to kind of mess with the settings, this is where you come to do it. The NPCs, again, single player. The only enemies you're going to have are the puppets mainly, and then, of course, the mechs whenever you get to certain POIs. But the puppets are your main enemy in this, so you can mess with this however you like. This is what I was telling you, where I had to get some help, and it took me a while with testing and stuff to figure out what I liked and what certain settings I had to change and which ones I just kept at default. This is what you're going to see on this screen. Now, the one thing I will start out with is the max allowed characters. I originally had it at 1,000. For those of you who've been with my channel for a while, you know that I like a lot of puppets. Single player requires a lot of puppets, in my opinion, so you have something to fight against and keep it interesting for yourself. But ever since they made the changes to these settings, it seems like less is more. So I decreased it from 1,000 to 300. We're going to start here. If we have to decrease it some more, we'll do that. I think the default is -1. It seems to work perfectly fine at -1. It just doesn't register in my head that -1's a good number. So I increase it to 300. Again, we'll test it and see how it goes. And this has been set to the max, which is 3. So if you want, a decent amount of puppets, increase this. If you want to keep it at vanilla, keep it at 1, I believe is the default. So what I'm going to do for the rest of this until I get to my next setting that I adjusted, I'm just going to scroll down slowly. You can see this is way too much stuff to cover, and a lot of this stuff I don't even quite understand. So I'm just going to scroll down. You can see exactly what I did. Again, if you want to copy it, copy it. If you want to, if you're looking at your screen right now, at your settings, pauses, and then have at it with your own settings. And hopefully this helps you guys. It really does. I really hope it does, because this stuff was very mind numbing to go through. I just I got tired of testing. That's what it is. I just want to play the game, and I had to test all this crap just to and ask other people what they've done just to get it to where it is right now. So what my puppet world encounter spawn weight multiplier. So right here, I changed this from 1 to 3. So these are the puppets that will spawn out in the wild, basically. I used to call them wild puppets. These are the ones that will spawn in the woods or in fields. As you're running, they'll pop up randomly in different areas as you're running or walking through fields and forests and stuff like that. So if you want to have that possibility of them spawning there, set this higher. If you want that to not really happen, set it lower. Same thing with your animals. It's the same concept. So I don't know how this affects hunting, if it affects it at all, but what I get out of this is the animals will appear more in the world. So you'll be able to, kill bears and wolves and all that kind of stuff. You'll see more of them and you'll have an opportunity to hunt them down. So we'll keep going here, just kind of scrolling down. So the drones I shut off in single player, you will get, if you don't shut this off, you will get drones that will come by randomly at different times, and you'll hear them, you'll know they're there. But if it gets too annoying for you, just come to this tab and turn them off. So turn them to 0. And another thing that I did change at the end of season 3, the last episode, I said I was going to turn the sentries off or the mechs. I didn't like it. I went through the D4 airfield with them off just so I can show you that place because it's so massive. But I don't like them off. I'm so used to having them on that I prefer them to be on. But if you don't want them on, turn this to on. Turn this disable sentry spawning on, and they will not appear at any POIs or anywhere on the map. It'll just be your puppets. And then, like I said, the puppet health multiplier is going to be increased to 2. I felt this was pretty good considering what I was going through in the D4 airfield. Even just with my guns, it took a little bit more bullets and ammo to kill them. Now, I don't believe I tried a bow. Yeah, I didn't. I was going through that with guns. So we'll see what that's like with the bow. And that's it. That's what I changed here on the NPC tab. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the weather tab or weather category. Nighttime darkness. I kind of like this a little lighter than normal. I don't know what the default is, but it is pretty damn dark. I guess it's 0 would be the default. If you lower this to where I have it in the negative side, it will be brighter. If you increase it, it will be darker. So I play this game. When I play this game, I mainly play it while I'm recording. I don't play a lot of multiplayer anymore because of the updates and you keep getting wiped. So I don't really like that on multiplayer, but for single player purposes, I have this down a little bit. And again, this is really because of my videos. And if this is not bright enough, I will definitely use a filter during editing for you guys. Now that I figured that out, as is if whoa, if you've seen my dead side videos, then you know what I mean. And then all I did was change the sunset time. It used to be 2 hours between sunset and sunrise. It is now going to be 1 hour. So less darkness, less nighttime. So I kind of adjusted the darkness based off of that as well. But you can just keep it at default or adjust that however you like. All right, let's go over to the map. I don't think I did anything with the map. This is all the same. This one setting, I do want to say that if you do not want to unlock lockers like in police stations or POIs and stuff like that, you don't want to use lock picking items or do any of that crap, turn this off. That'll enable you to go ahead and just loot those containers without having to lock pick them. If you do like the lock picking, keep this on. Otherwise, everything else is default. Cargo drops are the same. I'm not changing any of this. So whatever you saw in my previous season, this is what it's going to be. Hunting. I didn't change anything in this either. I might have changed this a while back. I don't know what the default is for max allowed hunts. I just I turned it down, I believe, because I think this is a little bit higher as a default number. But again, I don't really recall. So this is what I have. If you want to make the animals harder to kill, you just increase their health multiplier. It's just like with the puppets. It's the exact same thing, only this is just the animals. And then we're back to bunkers and we're done with the world tab. Now we're on to respawn. So this is for your character when you respawn if you die. Um, Obviously, sector and shelter respawns, I would keep on. That's just a recommendation. So you have 3 different choices. If you have a shelter, you'll be able to respawn there. And of course, if you have the money to respawn in a sector, you can do that as well. Speaking of the price, I did change all of these respawn prices. So the random respawn was set at 60 originally. I'm now at 150. The sector was at what was that? 100? No, excuse me, 75. It's now at 200, and the shelter respawn was at 100. It is now 250. And the reason why I did this is because I increased my permadeath threshold to negative 1,000, and I'll get to that in a minute. I also changed the respawn initial time. The random one I kept the same, it is 0, but the sector one I changed from 30 seconds to 10. And then I changed the shelter from 45 to 25. Basically, what this is when you die and um these respawn timers come up, when it says, prisoner died, and then all of a sudden it'll say random respawn, and then this like white line will outline that particular um item so you can click on it. The amount of time it takes for it to do that is what this means, is what I believe this means. So less amount of time, the quicker you'll be able to click on that item so you can respawn, or that option, I should say, so you can respawn wherever you like. That's what I get out of it. So I'm changing that. We're going to test it and see if that's true. I'm pretty sure it's true because it's kind of straightforward. And then I think that's all I did there, didn't I? Other than the permadeath threshold, everything else is default as far as I'm concerned. And like I said in the beginning, if something doesn't look like a default number, it's obviously because I changed it and I don't remember changing it. So the permadeath is negative 1,000 now. So I'm not doing a permadeath series. I don't do that. I did one of those one time, and then that was the only time I did it. I didn't really, it's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't want to do that. Now we're on to vehicles. So here is the resources for the vehicles. So basically your battery drain and your fuel drain. At the start of season 3, I did decrease this from 1 to 0.7. So basically, this is how much fuel drains from your vehicle while you're driving it. If you want it to drain fast, increase this. If you want it to drain slower, decrease it. So that's what I did. So the spawning vehicles, I kind of went over this before. I'm pretty sure I did, but I increased the amount of airplanes to 5. I believe there's only 2 is a default number. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I got rid of the dirt bike. I did that before season 3. I also got rid of the bicycles before season 3. The one thing I did do was I added in the Volkswagen. I did remove that one as well because I'm not a big fan of this car, but I added it in just as another option. So what I did was there'll be 30 of them that'll spawn in on the map, and 20 of them will be functional. And what that means is 20 of them will have engines. So there is a possibility that I will come across one that doesn't have an engine at all, because there's going to be 10 that do spawn in without engines. And I do that to myself because, well, that just keeps the survival aspect of the game intact. It also allows me to just take parts from those cars. There's no point in doing anything else with them other than taking parts and selling them or using them for a vehicle that I currently have. So as you see, I do that with the Leica. 40 will spawn in, 30 of them will spawn in as functional, meaning they'll spawn in with the engine. I do, like I said, the Volkswagen there. We got the Rangers set up the same way, Cruisers set up the same way. The RIS, I even those out. I mean, it's usually the first vehicle that I get up and running. So I kept that the same, and the same thing with the SUPs. So again, you can tweak them. Oh, the one thing too, guys, is I'm not allowed to purchase these things in the trader. So I turn that off. I don't want to be able to purchase them. I just want to again, I want to keep this as much of a survival game as I possibly can and make it a little bit harder on myself. When it comes to the miscellaneous tab, I did nothing here. This is all the same default, and then we're back to resources, and that's it for vehicles. Let's move on to damage. So our century damage multiplier, all this kind of stuff, base building, drop ship damage, all of this right here, all of these are all default. So you don't need to change them. You can mess with them if you like. I didn't want to do that. I just left them the same. The one thing I did change here for this upcoming season is the zombie damage multiplier. It was set at 7.5. We are now at 8.5. So now my puppets will hit harder and they will be harder to kill. Again, we will modify the health of the puppets. If I feel it's still too easy, I'll jack it up to 3. We'll see what it's like as we play, because I use a bow most of the time. So we'll see how that works. Everything else is pretty much the same. I think item DK damage, I did decrease that at one point. I think the default is 1, so I did kind of lessen that a little bit. But that's it for that. And the last category is features. So our subcategory to begin with is base building. I did do a pretty good amount of changes on this. Not a ton, but a decent amount, I feel. The first thing I changed was allow multiple flags per player. Now, what I did was this was off for my first 3 seasons. I'm going to turn it on because I was thinking that if I'm at, let's say my main base is in the Z sector, and yet I have to go or want to go up to the castle, which is what in the was that C sector, I think. That's a long way away. So the whole idea is if I have a main base in one area, I can build another base in another area closer to another POI that I want. And if I do that, that allows me to store more resources there. And when I'm in that area again, I can just stop by my base and say, hey, I want to pick this up. There's some food in there, or maybe I have ammo in there that I need, or a bow that I could use. And who knows, if I do a random respawn, I could also randomly respawn in that sector where my base is. And I could just go to my base and be like, hey, I'll just, re-kit myself and go ahead and keep playing the game. So that's kind of where my thought process is. So that's kind of what I want to do for season 4. And we'll test that out as well. The other things I changed were the weapon racks and the wall weapon racks. I increased these two from 2 to 4, and I increased these from 3 to 4. If I go over 4, they will start decaying as if they would in multiplayer. Keep keep in mind that in single player, nothing will decay unless you make it decay. So don't, if don't worry about your base, going to shit if you haven't been on your single player in a while. It's going to be exactly the same way you left it, as long as you don't mess with these certain settings where your base can decay and stuff like that. So those are things I did change there. What was the last thing I did? Oh, this one down here, allow floor placement on half and low walls. I didn't even know this was the thing until I happened to see this. As I was going through all the settings and change certain things. I turned this on. So basically, you can do wall placement on half walls and low walls, but I never tried a floor on a half wall and low wall. So that'll be interesting to see what we can do with that. So I turned that on. Otherwise, it'll be off, I believe. So there you go. There's the base building subcategory. Let's go over to raid protection. You're in single player. There's no need for that to even be on. Your resources. So this is all your water, gasoline. If you increase this, then obviously it'd be better for you. If you decrease it, it'll be harder for you. So you can go ahead and mess with these. I didn't bother with any of these. These are all default. Item spawning. This is kind of important. If you want high loot, you want to change your spawner probability multiplier. You want to increase that, excuse me, and make this a lot higher. If you like a lot of loot, you want to do that. My suggestion is don't go over 3. 3 seems to be like the max anymore, even though you can take this up to 10, I believe. 3 is your max. Let's see. Yeah. I used to have my loot set at 3, and it would be like what it is now at 1.5. So when they changed all these settings and adjusted this stuff, they really did a number on these loot settings. So what you want to do is, if you want to make it hard on yourself, obviously decrease that. You can make it like a hardcore server. But that's up to you. The one thing I will say, and please keep this in mind, that when you do change your spawner probability multiplier, make sure you take this multiplier and you make sure it is the exact same thing. So your spawner probability and your examine spawner probability have to be the same. If they aren't, you're going to find out, like I did, that your loot is not going to be spawning properly. It just won't. I can't even remember what the problem was, but I think I had to set up the 3, which would give me a lot of loot, but this wasn't set that high. So I wasn't getting that amount of loot. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind. Make sure both of these two settings are identical. Everything else is default. So that's it for item spawning. Farming, I didn't bother with any of this. I don't think I did. I don't really remember. So if the number's different on here, then you'll know that I changed something. The skills, this is for your character, obviously, for all your attributes that you assign your character in the very beginning when you create the character. This is a way to take the grind away. So if you want to kind of increase these skill multipliers, you'll be able to increase your stats for these attributes a lot faster. You can also make this harder on yourself and decrease these. I kept these all at 1. These are all default. I don't mind playing the game on the default settings. I'm so used to it that doesn't bother me. I don't bother with this stuff. I like the grind anyway. Some of these things aren't that hard to do in order to, upgrade or increase your character statistics. So that's up to you. You can definitely mess with these, but that's what those skills are. The subcategory of quests. This is the last thing that I changed for season 4. And the one thing I changed was the simultaneous quests per trader. It's set at 1 as a default. I increased it to 2, so I can get 2 quests for a player per trader. So I can have 2 simultaneously on my phone or in my journal, whatever it might be, for one specific trader. And then the other thing that I switched or I turned on was this block purchase of required items. So what you can do with quests, let's say you get a quest for sexy shorts, I think that's what they call them, and you need 3 of them. You can go ahead, if you have this turned off, you can go ahead to a trader, buy 3 pair of sexy shorts, and you would be done with that specific quest. If you leave it on like I'm going to do, you actually have to go out into the world and find them. And when you do that, then you'll be able to finish the quest. So what I'm going to do is keep it on. Again, I want to keep it as I think it's supposed to be. But if you don't want to do that kind of stuff, you want to get the quest done faster, turn this off. Excuse me, the turrets, I didn't change any of this. So if they attack, the puppets come to your base and you have a turret set up, they should be able to attack them. Obviously sentries as well, but vehicles and prisoners, you're not going to run into those on your single player. And then the last thing is the miscellaneous. The movement inertia amount, I did not like this setting at all. I don't even know why it's in the game. I think it's stupid. Basically, what the problem was is I tested this on the default setting. As you're running, it feels like your character is being pushed against. And let's say you have a full inventory and you're weighing a lot. To have this turn on is going to make you a lot slower. So my suggestion, and this is just the way I feel about it, just turn it off. I think it's a dumb setting, but whatever. They have it in the game. Moving down to the stamina drain on jump multiplier. This is another new setting that really everybody had a problem with. But now that we can adjust it, it's not an issue anymore. When they first introduced it to the game, it was set at default and you couldn't even adjust it. The problem with this is if you're standing in place, like you see my character in the background, and I would just hit the space bar to jump, it would take 50% of his stamina away from him. Now, the whole purpose of them introducing this was for the PvP side of the game because people would tend to bunny hop. If you've never seen that before, it's when they're running away and they just keep pressing the space bar to jump, and it makes it a lot harder to kill them. So what they did was they introduced this so that could kind of offset what people do, and that is something that is super annoying in FPS games. I really can't stand that. It's still something that people do to this day in FPS games. I do play that stuff on the side, so I know exactly what they're trying to do here with this jump multiplier. But for single player purposes, either turn this off or decrease it. Test it out yourself. I found 0.5 to be perfectly fine for me. But if you want to turn it off or turn it lower than that, go ahead. I would recommend doing that. And then the rest of this, sorry, I got a little carried away with that setting. And the rest of this is default. The only thing I turned off was Dina. Dina's the AI. She's the tutorial. Basically, when you first start playing the game, she will pop up. Um, I forget exactly what she does. I'm assuming it's tutorial stuff. But if you don't want that on, just come into this section of the settings and turn her off. And that's it. That is it for my single player server settings. Any changes I made, I just went over them with you guys. I will probably, reiterate some of this stuff as the season progresses. And of course, we're going to test out the puppets to see what they're like. I'm hoping that the amount of puppets I have currently, the 300, is going to spawn the puppets better based on the threat zones. I really hope it works. I'm looking forward to getting to a bunker and kind of seeing what that's going to be like there. Because, like I said, that is the major problem I had when I had my puppets set at 1,000. So I'm hoping that corrects it. But that's it for me, guys. I hope this was very helpful to you. If it was, please leave a thumbs up. If you have any comments in leave them in the comments section. I'd like to know your thoughts. If you've played this game for a while and you have your settings set differently, feel free to share them. Other people can see them and they might try them out for themselves. But please hit the thumbs up if this was helpful. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And if you want to stay up to date with any future videos of mine, hit that notification button. So, like I said, guys, I really hope this was helpful. I've never done one of these before, but without going through the whole process, this is the quickest I could get this done. So, about 26, 27 minutes. Um, but I hope it was something that will be useful to those of you who haven't played Scum yet or are looking to get the game and start out. And single player is a good way to start out. So, like I said, I hope this was helpful. And, as always, guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.